The Acolyte has brought a lot of controversy into Star Wars recently. A long time ago, though, in a galaxy far, far away, one man created a trilogy that awed and inspired a generation. And over 20 years later, that same man created another trilogy met with criticism that is still echoed by many to this day. Today on Nerd Champs, we will fight about the Star Wars prequels. Let's get to it. Get to that. We're going to remind you all to like, share, subscribe. Go ahead and do everything you can to help us grow. We want you guys to be a big part of everything that we got going on.
Go outside, yell at your neighbors.
That's it.
Throw your trash in their trash bin. You do what you got to do.
Kidnap pets. Kidnap pets. And leave your
That's
answer.
right. Kidnap pets.
Yeah.
Or just watch the video. That's
or
cool.
just watch the video.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's meet these two wonderful combatants. He is the Bone Bridger, 31,000 followers on YouTube. He's here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Bone Bridger. And you know him as Dan the Man. He is a previous reigning nerd champion from this very platform. He's here. He has worn the belt before, and he's here to make a declarative statement.
All you children out there who think Disney killed Star Wars, I have something to tell you. The prequels still suck.
Okay, 2 minutes and go.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic, before the Dark Times, before the Empire. So 1,000 generations. And for 19 years, that and a couple other lines from Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope were all we knew about the Old Republic. Yoda told us about the Force. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. But then 19 years later, we learned that crude little amoebas called metachlorians were the Force. It wasn't mystical. It wasn't chi. It wasn't spiritual. It was just little amoebas that float around and give you the Force. When he said do or do not, there is no try, or you can't lift the ship because you didn't believe, what he should have said is you can't lift the ship because you don't have enough metachlorians. He just wrecked the dreams of a generation. I know you young guys don't understand, but there was a time when you were left to imagine how great this time was. And, with lines like, a more elegant weapon for a more civilized age. And for 1,000, you just, whatever you came up with in your head was better than whatever you're going to get. And you should understand that, because now you've been subjected to the Book of Boba Fett. What you build in your head is better than what you got. See, you never built anything, so you don't understand how awful what we got was. You get mad at these Disney things for checking lines from the originals, but what about he's too old to begin their training? How is a 9-year-old too old? You're just trying to cop lines, George. You're too lazy to come up with new ones.
2 minutes are up. All right. The case has been laid. Bone Bridger, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good and excited. I got amped up just feeling. I mean, I like what he's saying.
All right. Well, we're going to send Dan away, and the Bone Bridger is going to bring the heat here. All right. Bone Bridger, 2 minutes starting now.
So let's just get this out of the way. Real Star Wars began in 1999 and 2000. Let's not even pretend like those 70s and 80s movies with Luke. Okay, I'm kidding. Listen, hey, calm down. I see you. I'm sorry. It was a joke. But the prequels are mishated. Disney killed Star Wars. Where else could we possibly experience the joy and wonder of seeing an actual strong Jedi in Qui-Gon Jinn? Yeah, sure, Disney ruined it where lightsabers, shouldn't have hurt him. But what about Obi-Wan? Mace Windu. Okay, I'll give you the Anakin problem. I get it. I totally get it. But what about Revenge of the Sith? And most importantly, where else do we learn about the Trade Federation and the economies of the galactic universe in the Senate? What else could you possibly want? Okay. I know that there's some problems with episode 1, but where would Star Wars be without the lightsaber fight? The one that Disney claimed wasn't, like that theirs was a big deal. We're talking about Maul, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan. Come on. That's it, right? That's the standard. And Revenge of the Sith, I mean, that's it. So, I mean, the prequels are definitely not as bad as Star Wars Disney. Now, are they the best thing ever? No. They're pretty good, though. Not great. With my remaining time of this segment, I just want everyone to know out there that Jar Jar Binks is the best character in the history of Star Wars, and I stand by that because he's actually a Sith, and we all know that. That's a joke, but that's also just true. Just the true statement, and I'm sticking by that.
Wow, that's Jar Jar Binks is the best, huh? Okay, that's oh man, quite the time burn there, right, Dan? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and leave. We're gonna leave you guys on for the response segment so that you can see each other's reactions. But Dan, I'm gonna give you a minute to respond to your friend the Bone Bridger and tell him why he's wrong. And go.
All right. I'm not going to take the low-hanging fruit. I'm not talking about the pedophilia in Phantom Menace. I'm not talking about the fact that you're all mad that Obi-Wan didn't recognize Leia, but why did he spend a whole movie not recognizing 3PO and R2 when he should have? I'm going to go for the high score. I'm taking the high bar. The heel turn in Revenge of the Sith is not earned. You don't believe it. You don't feel it. The only reason you buy it is because you've spent 3 movies waiting for it. If you hadn't watched the OG trilogy and you watched that heel turn, you'd be like, what is he not? Is he stupid? Is he retarded? Was he dropped on his head? Did he breathe in too much sand and he has brain damage? Does he not see that he's being openly manipulated? Mace Windu's about to kill him. You know he's the Sith. Why are you throwing him? Why are you saving him? Why? Could you not fathom that he might be lying to you?
All right, Dan. Quite a response there. All right. So Bone Bridger, you got 1 minute and go.
Where would we be without the prequels? It's not like I have Star Wars memorabilia from different eras. It's okay. That might be Obi-Wan, but that must be the cheap one. I could have got the good expense Alex Guinness collector's edition. The real Obi-Wan is Phantom Menace Obi-Wan. But we're overlooking the most important character in Star Wars. I didn't want to play this trump card. I didn't want to do it because it's not fair. Can you just imagine what Star Wars would be without Watto, the guy running the junkyard? Do you know what Star Wars would be if we didn't have that flying guy? I mean, where would we be? Who would we be as people if we didn't see that arc of him becoming a successful gambling, runs a junkyard, pod race gambler to just, it fell apart. That's the dangers of gambling, folks. Gambling is a problem, and Star Wars taught me that. Nothing else, just Star Wars. That's the only place I learned it. I would have never learned it anywhere else. And also, I mean, if I'm being honest, in terms of battles and action, the prequels is pretty good from a space battle perspective. Revenge of the Sith, it's not bad. Grievous. We have that cool GIF where he pulls out 9,000 lightsabers. That's, the internet needs that. It's very important.
I do think that the Grievous GIF is probably the best thing to come out of the prequels. We will all, I think, agree on that. But General
he has a smoker's cough.
Anyway, all right. So here we're at the point where I kind of have to give a little bit of a summation. So my personal biases I'm trying to leave out of this. I'm trying to make this more towards the arguments. Okay. So I'm definitely going to try to be as fair as I possibly can. I'm going to give slight edge to Dan right now, just because anything positive about Jar Jar Binks being said was probably going to be the bottom of the barrel argument. It wasn't enough that George had to introduce that character and make him somehow responsible for taking out an entire army in episode 1. No. He also had to beg the Senate in order to cast their votes for the Galactic Empire. He really screwed everything up. George saw how unpopular Jar Jar was in episode 1 and said, we need more Jar Jar. So anyway, I'm going to give Dan the slight edge, but we're talking close here because the arguments that have been made have been very entertaining, to say the least. So we're going to do a 5-minute free-for-all. All right. Go ahead and get as personal as you want, guys. We're going to start it right now.
The problem with all Star Wars since the original trilogy is that the Skywalker story is told. It's done. You have a whole galaxy to explore. You've gotten the emotional climax. The father is saved by the son's belief in him. They needed to go somewhere else. You really don't care how it led up to that. Like you've already got the end. You don't need to go. You go back and look at something else. You know?
I think that was the tragic downfall of doing a prequel series instead of doing 7, 8, and 9 in 1999, because there would have been like, where do we go next? Like, and then that was a flaw. The prequels, I really wonder if he wanted to somehow capture the Obi-Wan story more, and maybe he just wanted more Obi-Wan. And I will say this, if I do have to give, I have to give the prequels a little love. Growing up in that era was interesting because that was my first Star Wars in theaters, and Obi-Wan was like a larger than life hero throughout all 3 movies. Like if I had to put a strong point, I'd say Anakin's the weak point because they do some weird stuff. But Obi-Wan, Ian McGregor, was like a hero. Like he honored the hero's path. I would say that's the strong point. But if I concede the problem, it is there's so many weird things that they didn't need to do. Like, I love the craziness of it. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd forgotten about Jar Jar Binks destroying the whole army. I just wish that he had done it in more of like a WWE fashion where he like power bombed them and stuff. That's my biggest complaint.
Yeah,
somebody
the whole army
George,
like,
hey man, let's dial back the racial stereotypes in this movie. with
the
the
whole
flying
army,
Jew and
like,
the little Asian Trade Federation guys and the obviously goofy black people that live under the sea. And it's like, hey, George, I think there might be one minority you haven't offended yet.
Yeah. The one thing I think George was trying, the reason I don't think he went 7, 8, and 9, the reason that I think he went 1, 2, and 3 is because there was kind of this thing with the Jedi. What's the word I'm looking for? It was very anecdotal. Like, you didn't ever really see what they talked about. And so to see it finally put on the screen in the lore that we heard about, I'll never forget the Trade Federation. When I first saw the Trade Federation scene and the Trade Federation guys were like, I'm not going in there with 2 Jedi, I was like, oh, that's the kind of gravitas that we're talking about that the Jedi have. So it was kind of something a little different that I hadn't seen before, because the Jedi, the only glimpse that we had of that is when Luke showed up to Tatooine in Return of the Jedi. That's the only glimpse of that we had. And so to see it at that level was something that was unique and different. And I think that's what George was going for.
Here's a nail in the coffin. To this day, the Jedi are baby snatchers because George wanted Yoda to say he's too old to begin the training one more time.
Mm-hmm.
With a kid that was 9, and when you watch the movie, you would swear he's 6. I mean, not only was it like he didn't need to be young at all, but then you cast a 9-year-old that played at 6, and you want Yoda to say he's too old again, and so now you get the acolyte. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say the acolyte is Phantom Menace's fault. That I said it. I said it all because George wanted Yoda to say a line one more time.
Well, and that's it, right? you're not supposed to use stories that literally. Like, you're not supposed to, it shouldn't be like, I have a bad feeling. You shouldn't do those things over and over and over. Let them be. Like, if Han, Luke, and Leia do it throughout the 3 movies, I get it. But then in the prequels, don't do I have a bad feeling. Like leave it. Like, it's gone. Do something new. You can do something new in the same vein of like, they all say a thing and it's a different thing, but it's kind of like, it's like it's close, but not. I think I wish he would have simplified things where go the trope of they all are duped by Anakin. He's the most powerful. Of course they want him. I wish they did that where it was like, it was to the power, and maybe Yoda was more worried about the power. That would have been a better story, because then it would have been like, with that power, like, what if he is bad? What do we do if that dude turns bad? We do nothing. And I wish they would have gone that route, because it would have been a much more like serious punch. I still say though, Darth Maul, that fight, I'll take anything just to get to that. I hate to be like this. I could put up with a lot of garbage just to listen to that music and watch those 3 guys fight.
I love Ray Park, and like that first G.I. Joe movie was atrocious, but he made it watchable because it's like, there's Ray Park doing Ray Park stuff. So I'm 1,000% with you. That's
everything but
that's at least something to watch that's cool, But but definitely. All right. Well, we're past our 5-minute deadline here, so I'm gonna have to take into consideration the arguments that were made and declare a champion somehow.
All right.
This week's nerd champion is our own Dan Johnson, because he found a way to blame the acolyte on George Lucas. I love you, Dan.
That is,
love you, Dan. Great argument.
Thank you.
So,
See?
Yeah.
Knock
Knockoff Obi-Wan didn't help me. The cheap Obi-Wan didn't. I'm joking. That's
Hey.
Alex Guinness.
But definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and give Dan, we're going to give you 30 seconds of FaceTime, Dan, and then I'll close this out.
To be honest, I don't really know what we've been arguing about, because in my head George Lucas went missing about 2 or 3 months after the release of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And Indiana Jones never fought aliens. He didn't get old and travel time and try to become a Roman. There are no prequels. There are no special editions. Han really did shoot first, and nobody has a reason to think that he didn't. Jabba the Hutt is not a cartoon, and no one ever stepped on his tail. And it's a happier world to live in.
It is a happier world to live in. And this has been another great discussion on Nerd Champs. We thank you all for joining us today. Remember, like, share, subscribe. Tell us what you think in the comments. Maybe you think it's all Disney. Maybe you think George isn't to blame. Go ahead and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, same nerd channel. We'll see you next week.